Ladies and gentlemen, and now we are coming to the first panel discussion today, where we invite many panelists to share their perspective on the next topic. So, in order to seize AI opportunities, marketing leaders should really focus on data governance, invest in training and education, set ethical guidelines, as well as make sure that AI aligns with their overall marketing strategy. Collaborating among marketing, data science, and legal teams is very crucial for navigating complexities and leveraging generative and predictive AI in marketing. And now let's dive into the next topic. I would like to welcome our panel members in the CEO discussion, remaining relevant in transformative artificial intelligence times. So please join me in welcoming on stage Mr. Greg Stewart, CEO of MMA Global. We would like to invite Mr. Cuong Dang, Founder, Executive Board Director, Forbes Vietnam. We would like to invite Mr. Marek Forsiak, Chairman of SmartPay, and Mr. Alejandro Osorio, Managing Director of Grab Vietnam, and our moderator, Mr. Som Thais, CEO Ogilvy Group Vietnam. Over to you, Mr. Som Thais.
Thank you. And good morning, Xin Chào, everybody, and welcome to this CEO panel discussion. I must say I've been looking forward to this because I think on the stage here we have people who have a broader perspective, perhaps, than beyond marketing, certainly, and also represent different industries. So what we're going to try and do this morning in this session, 30 minutes, is if I could ask each of my panelists to share your perspective. How are you approaching the opportunities and challenges? Perhaps then to share some concrete examples of what you're doing within your companies. And then any advice, learnings you've had to date that you could share with CMOs. So that's how we'll play it. But by way of further introduction, so Greg, we met you earlier this morning. I guess you'll be bringing a US perspective to some extent. Marek, we've met before, but you're doing some really interesting things, turning cash into smart cash, and really helping. I think one of the biggest challenges we have in this market is the traditional trade in Vietnam, still 60, 70% of sales for a lot of FMCG. So very interested to hear what you're up to. Ale at Grab, what are you doing? That's going to be interesting. Again, you've got that above market or above marketing point of view. And Cuong, some of the insights that you have, I think, from Forbes and looking at the industry more broadly, that will be interesting. So maybe I'll kick off, and I'll kick off maybe, Cuong, with you, if I may. Can you tell us a little bit about how you're thinking about AI, some of the challenges and opportunities?
AI in general, I think it's been around for a long time. My background is in tech, so just want to give a little bit of background on that. I worked on a lot of machine learning, large language models before my current times with Forbes and media space. But AI in general has transformed a lot of the ways that businesses are doing on their operations. In media industry, especially at Forbes, lots that we could do, but the most effective way that we're currently leveraging it is through using different applications, different tools to automate and to plan for a specific program that we're launching. For example, if we were to launch something that, just like this campaign, right, this whole event, Impact Vietnam, we create a theme, but before we get into the gist of it, which is our editorial team would spend a lot more time in crafting more specific topics that drives insights from speakers. We need to provide the landscape of it. We need to provide the foundations that people can understand. And that's what we use AI for. For writings, for video productions, for graphics, and so forth. That's what we're doing at the moment. I'll stop there.
Okay. Ale, why
don't monopolize the whole conversation.
Okay. Ale, tell us a little bit about what you're doing at Grab.
Well, I'd like to say first, I'm really excited to see how passionate everyone is about AI. At the same time, I think AI is going to be transformational, and we're already on that journey. but it's still very nascent, right? The applications are still quite narrow today. The technologies that are available have very specific use cases in each different instance, right? So I think understanding the role that AI can play to complement our businesses, whether it's to provide better personalization, more seamless and customer delight experiences, better workflows and operational efficiency, and even over time, helping to use data in a better and smarter way to drive subsidy optimizations and spend efficiencies as well. These are all vastly different implementations that AI can be used for. So I think for all of us, it's about identifying what are the different problems that we're trying to solve, how can we use AI to bridge those gaps or to accelerate and accentuate what we do today. And that's really what it's all about and what Grab is exploring at the moment. I'll get into some more details about that later.
Okay, good. Marek, what about from your perspective?
I think it's interesting for us to be able to understand how this technology applies to each and every one of our businesses. And how do we take this technology and how do we use that technology in a way that is relevant to what we're doing? Greg talked a little bit earlier about data. Imagine you are thinking about building a payments company that has 600,000 to 700,000 small businesses around the country, 600,000 to 700,000 businesses that are processing payment transactions, millions of payment transactions in real time. Think about the amount of data that you're capturing. Now try to rationalize that data in a way that allows for you, payment company, to turn that into actionable insights. Without the capabilities that exist today, businesses like SmartPay would be absolutely lost in our abilities to be able to act efficiently, effectively in servicing a market like Vietnam, moving from cash to non-cash. All of that today being underpinned in a first principles approach in companies like SmartPay.
And you were saying, Marek, something like 75% is still cash today. Yeah?
Yeah, so there's many different segments of the market, right? So if you look at traditional trade, you know, the grocery store on the corner, as you go into those businesses, 75 to 80% of all the transactions that are taking place in those retail stores are happening in cash. Remember, people are buying stuff, right? As you walk into a store, you have to pay for what it is you're purchasing, and the vast majority in that segment, customers are paying in cash. But again, that's shifting. That's shifting from cash to non-cash for many, many different reasons. But as a result of that, businesses are becoming more complicated. The complexity of that being addressed through technology.
Thank you. Greg, you've heard some different perspectives. Any comments or bills from what you're hearing?
Yeah, the only thing I would add to some of that, and excellent comments here by the other panelists, and I'm no AI expert. I want to be careful about that by any means. But I think I try to listen well to others. I think we're so early. I don't think we know much of anything at this point. And I want to be careful because certainly financial services and Grab has been doing it for some year. They need to have it in the complexity of their businesses. I had a conversation with a bunch of the CMOs on my board the other day, and one of them, a major CMO in the US, said, she goes, I just don't know if I really, and by the way, she's a tech person. She was actually a coder within Microsoft, so she's got a real tech background. She says, I just don't really see the evidence of where the value is. And my takeaway from that, the observation that we came to is that, listen, cell phones have been around for a while. Smartphone was introduced in 2007. Uber, Grab, which would arguably be sort of one of the major killer apps of mobile, right? It's what made it incredibly valuable in addition to banking, some other things. Uber wasn't even started until 2009. So I don't think we've actually seen the killer app yet. I don't think we really know, okay? I would summarize, though, that there's two areas that we look at as I listen to the marketers. And as I mentioned before, we've got now 190, 195 marketers who are fixated on helping us to figure out AI. And what I hear from them is two things. One is around efficiency, content generation in particular, the amount of content. You've heard that a couple of times here on the stage today. And then MMA, and where MMA tends to lean is around marketing and productivity, making more decisions than you otherwise even feasibly could consider doing. Same thing that you just said, same as what Grab's up against. The human beings couldn't even, the rules base can't get there nearly as efficiency as AI can. So I always look for, like, what am I doing to either dramatically lower the challenges of actually getting work done, content area particularly. I had CMO of one of the brands said to me the other day that they produced a campaign that had 5,000 assets to it. How in God's name do you produce 5,000 creative assets for a single campaign? It's been incomprehensible to me. So those are the areas I've looked, just if that's helpful.
Thank you. That is. Ali, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm struck, the MIT framework, increasing customer delight, lowering cost to serve. One of the great advantages with AI is that it can provide that behind-the-scenes experience that creates that customer delight at lower cost to serve. Can you tell us a little bit about what Grab is doing to give that seamless behind-the-scenes experience?
I think behind the scenes is the right phrase, actually, because to us, great AI is actually invisible. So for example, at Grab, we've been using AI and machine learning for years. We have 400 models live today in the app, right? None of you would have realized that as you encounter your app experience. So I think designing around those gaps that I talked about before, finding new ways to leverage all these great permutations of implementations that only AI can drive and self-learn is very important. Some examples of that, for instance, are we use now AI-driven chatbots, for example. This is both on social media and our internal support channels, so that when users come in with requests and issues, rather than queuing up for a call center agent, they now are served instantly for easy tasks that are easy to repeat, that the AI can handle. I think in terms of personalizing the experience, a super app like Grab has so many services available to users that sometimes it can be a bit daunting. Not just choosing between Grab Food and Grab Car, for example, but actually what different version of Grab transportation service will you use? So we now have a better ability based on context, based on certain triggers and predictive analysis that AI can generate to serve the user the services that we think are most relevant to them, that are most likely to convert. So I think these are really interesting ways in which we leverage AI today to drive better experiences that feel more personal to the user as well. And it will only get better over time. I see in the future an ability for us to, for example, determine based on certain predictive triggers whether a user has a higher propensity or lower propensity to make an organic order, for instance, without a subsidy, right? These are really interesting capabilities that allow us to make sure that we are good and responsible stewards of the spend that we have both on our platform and yourselves as marketers in the future as well, right? So again, the beauty of a platform like Grab is that not only do we have all of those capabilities, but then we play to our strengths as well, because we can offer you that personalized journey and experience. But at the end of the day, we close the loop with an offline transaction as well, right? And that's the importance that the humans will still play in terms of adding that human touch, that more emotional or experiential feel that flows through to the transaction, right? And that's why I touched on before that the best use of AI is as a complementary tool, and you are the masters of those tools, right? So what's really important is figuring out, understanding how those tools can be leveraged, understanding how they're evolving, testing, experimenting, coming in with a learning mindset, go on that journey, explore, be responsible. I think that's also very important, and you'll find interesting ways to leverage it that are unique to you.
Thank you. Marek, the same must apply to you as you have all of these small businesses adopting your platform. How are you making it easy for them? How is AI helping you make that experience for them better?
Yes, so it's a combination of things, and you kind of build on what we've already heard. It's easy for a company like us to go bankrupt. very easy for us to go bankrupt. Remember, we incentivize, as Grab, much of what goes on between buyers and sellers. And left unchecked, the way marketing campaigns and budgets are created to finance these incentives, left unchecked, I go bankrupt. Now remember, 700,000 retailers across the country processing transactions. I can't incentivize every one of them. I didn't read Greg's book, right? But it seems like I did. I don't want to incentivize people that are never going to use my services. I also don't want to incentivize people that are already hooked on my service. They've already transitioned away from cash. I don't want to spend more money on them. So AI has allowed for me to do that in real time. I can't create a budget and then think about what's going to happen over the next 1 day, 5 days, 7 days, 14 days. It's not effective for us. All of this has to happen. As our colleague from Grab said, these are models that are already operating. We wouldn't have started our business if we didn't think about that from day one. And again, this is the way I believe our businesses are going to evolve going forward. It is a combination at this point of man and machine working together. This isn't machine taking over man. This is a reality where man is leveraging machine capabilities that are there. Artificial intelligence, whatever and however you want to define that. But that's what we have going on.
Yeah. Well, let's hope you don't go bankrupt. AI is helping you drive margin and revenue growth. But coming to that, can you talk a little bit, Kung, about how the medical industry or the medical sector is looking at using AI to help drive margin revenue?
I like that Soames just goes straight into the medical or the healthcare industry. Oh, the other comment is America seems to believe that Judgment Day will come and then Terminators didn't actually exist. But that's a different part of the story. But I share with Soames my background a little bit. I had a tech company in the past before I came back to Vietnam. One of the big things we did was early days were large language models and machine learning, and AI was in the heart of that. AI comes in different forms. Today, most of the marketers, our friends here, probably are familiar with the generative AI, ChatGPT and so forth. And what do we use that for? It's a bit more human-friendly. It's a bit more, not human-friendly, I think it's friendlier to the mass audience. It's more relatable to marketers, our friends, advertising industry, for our teams at even accounting, finance team, to take these things and give it a bit more a context. Generative AI produce somewhat a background or something that automate for us, but the important thing for us is to fact check. Companies can influence the models to give us something that's false or misleading, but it's important for us to, it's easy to see the language, the graphics is very convincing, it's very professional, but we need to do a fact check on that. So go back to, how do we do fact check on that? So my application in the past, we built for the banking industry and the healthcare industry. Especially in the banking industry, we trained the model to identify patterns for money laundering, for behaviors that FBI blacklist that they have. And then move into the healthcare space would be, an example would be the ER. If you go to a hospital here, if you don't, I hope people don't go to the ER as often, but the ER is the most high-trafficked department in a hospital or a clinic. There are tremendous transactions or encounters, we call it. A nurse come in and say, what happened? You give them a story, they leave the room, they come back, give you some drugs, they leave the room, the doctor comes in. There's a lot of encounters. So over the course of the years or the months, you have massive amount of data, you have massive amount of encounters. That needs to be audited. So we build application to audit to make sure that we as a patient not being mistaken given different drugs that cause severe symptom in the future. This is where lawsuit becomes something that you get severed. Or we get charged mistakenly for brackets that we're not in. For example, in the US, if you're in lower income brackets, you have a certain prescriptions incentive that you pay less than others who are more fortunate. You would be fined significantly if you give them the wrong bill by the government. Or you lose revenue if you not charging the right type of audience. So AI at the heart of that, processing billions of data and find the outliers, and then the expert, which is humans, comes in and say that is correct or incorrect as the misleads. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, the big thing there is the data that powers that. Greg, you've been somewhat critical of organizations for not being data ready. What learnings can you share to help companies on that?
Yeah, so we started about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, very fixated on data, in part because we believe the marketing strategy of the future, based on substantive research done with academics, is customer experience. It's not brand. As much as we are believers in brands, and we're not here to neglect brands, we think it's around customers. But your data's got to get ready. We have now done 2 revs annually around data maturity. And so 2 stats. One is that 10% of marketers believe that they are data ready for AI. Can't tell if maybe that's even high, I don't know. What's really disappointing is that because we've done these studies actually 2 years apart, we saw no progress in data maturity from the 2-year period ago to now. And data's only gotten more important. So if nothing else, I think that that's probably a pretty big call to arms to really get fixated on making sure that your data is organized and data is organized in a way for the future. And we have a series of things that we can do to help support that. But just that thesis of takeaway, you really got to get fixated on this.
I'm wondering if the MMA could do more on that. What is a roadmap? How do companies get data ready? We should pick up on that.
Yeah, agreed.
Now, the MMA is meant to be here to help elevate the CMO agenda within the C-suite, but there's a lot of future CMOs in the audience. What advice would you share to some of the youngsters in the audience today about how they should be thinking about the next kind of 5 years? Because this is certainly, in the 40 years I've been in this industry, the biggest disruption we've ever seen. To your younger self, or to some of the younger people in the audience, Ale, why don't we start with you? What advice?
So get on the train, I think, first of all, right? But as I said before, get excited, but understand the limitations that it has. I think that's really important. Let's not focus on the buzzword itself, but what are the practical implementations that you can leverage it for? I think as some of you touched on before, make sure that you have the foundations in place, like data and so on, number one. Number two, be open to leveraging partners and partnerships on this journey to help accelerate your push for AI, right? Even companies like Grab sometimes work with external partners like Google to leverage their AI capabilities in campaigns in interesting and innovative ways, right? So be practical, be surgical in terms of what you think that you want to resolve, what opportunity you want to create, and what are the right tools that you can leverage to make that happen. Leverage partnership, go and explore, learn, and I think if you can apply all of that, you'll start to make advancements, and you will trip up along the way, and you will learn from that. The AI will learn from that as well, and you will keep building from there, right? This is an iterative process, let's say. And as I touched on before, let's also remember that AI can also be misused, whether irresponsibly or just out of poor configuration, poor data sets that are being fed into it as well. So how you leverage it, how you train it, what kinds of guardrails you set is just as important to make sure that we don't let AI become evil and become our undoing as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Ale. Kung, what about your point of view on that?
Just like the early days, that I wish that I can see the future and then buy Bitcoin.
Don't we all?
Ali shared that they'd be excited about it. I think we all should be excited. That the advice to the youngsters, myself, or the young potential CMOs in this room, I think there are a few things. The theme is remaining relevant in a transformative artificial intelligence time. There's two parts of that. One, which is for the marketers, and the other one's for the entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur at heart, let's just say. For the marketers, my view is I think it's being creative, leveraging what is out there, getting into it, find research, find the best application, the best tools that can provide us with the foundation that we can focus more on the creativity of it. Whereas the productivity side, you can leverage AI. Either you build it or you leverage what's out there. Building it is expensive. Maybe Coca-Cola, Unilever, larger organization would do. But it's an early day. It will cost a lot of money for R&D, that's what Google is doing. I was joking with Ale, saying, why would you read email anymore? And she was saying that this is smart reply. And I was sitting in a bar and like, I gotta read email. I'm not gonna read it because it's smart reply. But it's great because it's automate for customer service, for other types of industries. But the other side of the equation, which is entrepreneurship, it's a great opportunity for us to see potential creative ideas that will capture and create new products in this industry. Whether it is generative AI, anything that's more predictive, there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurs, for startups to go into it. That's my thought.
Great. Marek, what about you?
As Alejandro already made reference to, there's an aspect to learning, and this is a time where that we really have to embrace learning. But if I'm a marketer out there, when we look at the way businesses today are being structured, I'm not going to date myself, but things like data technology never existed 20, 30 years ago. Now ask yourself, if you're running a business, where are you going to put your data technology organization in your company? In our company, it's within our marketing function. That's where data tech is. Data tech's not in the tech group. It's not in the finance group. It's not in the risk management group. So if you're a CMO, you can't be afraid of technology. You have to embrace technology. You have to become a technology expert. You have to be good at it. And again, that goes back to Alejandro's aspect of learning, right? There's no shortage of opportunities to learn, myself included. And our marketers have to really embrace the fact that these responsibilities are going to shift to some degree to those parts of the organization.
Great, Marek, thank you. And you left us there on a slightly optimistic note, and a great segue to Greg. You left us in your opening with that optimistic view. Tell us a little bit about that.
Listen, this is still giving advice, right? So, listen, I had a gentleman speak on my stage. He was worth $2 billion at this point. So let's assume he'd been successful. He made a very interesting statement. He says, the only advantage to being older, of which I clearly qualify for today, is pattern recognition. And I think he's right. That was my experience, pattern recognition. So my pattern recognition is that being on the front edge of any trend that's coming along is super advantageous to your career. And I've been fortunate. I did buy Bitcoin early. I don't know why I saw that, but it made sense to me at the time. But I was early into PCs. None of you are old enough to remember there was a time before PCs. There was. I was there. I was early in internet from the very beginning. I was well positioned for that, and I was well positioned. And then I came to run what was arguably the Mobile Marketing Association, which we transformed to be more broadly. So I think that idea of just being out on the front edge is so important. And there's no easy step, as you guys said. You just have to hunker down and commit the time to learn and to be there. And for me, that payoff is immensely strong. Now that said, I don't know if this happens in Vietnam, but do you listen to your parents? No, I don't know. No? I have twin daughters. The only thing I have been successful in communicating to them is that one of them got a degree in data science. So I feel like I've accomplished something good in my life.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much. Well, look, I think we'll wrap it there. I'd just like to thank our panel for sharing your insights. Very, very good. And thank you to the audience for listening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Somtais and all the panelists for a very exciting panel discussion. And we'd like to invite Mr. Greg Stewart on behalf of MMA to present the thank you gift to all of our panelists and also moderator. Once again, thank you so much for your sharing. Please remain on stage. Please remain on stage. There's still some thank you gifts to be delivered by Mr. Greg Stewart. Once again, thank you so much for very exciting panel discussions with a lot of insights. Yes, Mr. Greg. Once again, thank you so much for your sharing on the topic of remaining relevant in transformative artificial intelligence times. Thank you. Also, thank you so much, Ms. Van Victim.